Hello, friends. This is Sandy, and my video today is my Changing Leaves cards. There's 14 cards in this workshop. Some supplies you'll want to gather. I used 4 different shades of ink, a lighter brown. I used Toffee, a darker brown. I used Espresso, pumpkin, so an orangey color, and Glacier, which is a lighter bluish green. So for inks, you'll want a sanding block, a brush to use with the orange ink, 2 different pens, a white gel and a brown journaling pen, pair of scissors, adhesives of lots of different varieties. So foam tape, glue dots, I would say big glue dots and little glue dots. Okay, and then you'll need the Changing Leaves stamp set to complete this. If you don't have it, come to my house and you can borrow mine. All right, so you've got this great little goodie bag here. And here, first let's go through all the other things and then we'll make a big old mess. So there's 14 envelopes, and inside each of the envelopes is each one of these cards. And we're actually going to do them in the order that your envelopes are and run right through the stack. And then you've got 14 card bases that all can get folded in the standard size fold. All right, so in this little goodie bag, you have some beautiful gems. These are so fun. Then we're going to work on this stack right here. So everything from this like 3x4, it's a little wider than 3 and not quite 4, but this weird shaped piece, we're going to do that and everything above it. We're going to stamp, and here's my guide. Here's the guide for the things you're going to be stamping. We'll come back to that in a minute. Then you've got the next set of pieces are these pieces that I have die cut and embossed for you. And I wanted to show you a little bit how that worked so you can see how awesome this set is. So all of these we're going to set aside as well. We're going to work on those. And then you've got lots of little gold pieces and teeny tiny things that I've cut out for you. Put all of those right back in this bag, because if you sneeze or breathe and those all go flying, you'll be so sad. And actually, I'm going to put the gems back in there too. Okay, so these pieces right here, you're going to cut like it says here. So this one's cut in pumpkin, and then I cut it out. And then each of these, and whatever things you want to stamp, what kind of sentiments are you looking for right now? Go ahead and stamp all 14 of those. I used espresso ink, whatever makes you happy, but stamp all your sentiments ahead of time. And then all of those leaves, you've got in this little stack here, you've got these leaves that I've already cut out for you. Those ones you're going to stamp all in Toffee. And then the next prep thing that we're going to do, so get those stamping done, and then all of the pieces that I embossed for you, you're going to go ahead and add either ink or sanding to them. So all these ones along the bottom and up through here, all of these I sanded. The 2 biggest ones in the darkest color, I inked with espresso. These 2 pieces I inked with pumpkin. And these ones I inked with toffee. And when I say I inked it or I sanded it, let me tell you what I mean. So with a sanding block, let me flip this over for just a second. With a sanding block, you can just rub the sanding block over top of the paper. And because I'm using two-tone cardstock, then it reveals that white core and you can see that. Or if you're inking, you take the ink and laying it flat, you always want to make sure it's flat, like horizontal to the table. hold the paper and just rub the ink over top of it. And when you do that, it transfers the color onto the parts that are popped up. So then you get all those fun little veins in the leaf showing. So I've done that to each of these ones. You decide whatever makes you happy. I did do my samples here are exactly the way I did them in the cards. I think they're right. We'll see when we get through it. But so that's upside down. That's your prep work. But as promised, I wanted to show you first, so the stamp set, right? The stamp set that created all of these images. And then here's the dies. So here's where all of those sentiment pieces came from, except these two that were from the Perennial Postage Dies. Then in this little baggie, you'll find all of these teeny tiny little intricate pieces that I cut ahead of time for you, all came from the dies here. So really everything's from this thing. And then so here, this is what I wanted to show you. All of these pieces and all of these pieces came from this die. But these ones here that are already embossed for you, the way this works is it die cuts and embosses at the same time. So you actually put the die right in there. Then your paper, I'm just gonna lay some scrap in there so you get the idea. Your paper goes in there, then you run this through the embossing machine and it cuts it out and embosses it at the same time. That's how those pieces came to be. Pretty cool, right? I know. I super, super love this. I should do a separate video just of showing what this thing can do. Okay, get your prep work done. So I've made a stack of my biggest leaves, the maple looking leaves, and then the other like 3-leafed clusters, a stack of all of my sentiments. And then don't forget this one needs to get cut out with your scissors. And we're going to start working on our first card. So we're going to dive right into the pieces in our first card. And the first thing that I see that I did with this one is I scissor distressed the edges of all of these pieces. So I went around the edges of all 3 of these columns and just roughed up the edges, keeping my scissors closed so they're not going to hurt me, but just roughing up the edges. See if I put this against so that it kind of pops out. So you decide if you want to do that. So I did scissor distress mine. Then from my sentiments, I grabbed the thank you. From the big leaves, I got one of the ones I stamped. Then, oh, we don't need that. I'm just gonna, that's the orange one I cut. From this pile, I grabbed that leaf that I sanded. And then these 3 pieces came from my plastic bag of goodness. So the little red, one of the gold woven ones, and then the green that has the 2 leaves. So first thing I'm going to do is decide which way I'm going to put this on my card. Do I want it popping up or popping down? And which color. And I'm going to attach that. Then you may decide you want to ink it or sand it or do some kind of texture to it to make the texture paper pop, that embossing really show. Totally up to you. I'm not for the sake of video time. All right, so next I want you to figure out which way these trees go. They all were together at one point. So figure out which way that scene goes and then work on your spacing, how you want those columns to go. And then go ahead and put those right on the front of your card. And I'm going to do the left and the right first, and then put that middle one in to help with spacing. All right, and now it's just a matter of figuring out our leaves. So here I'm just using 3 of these. We'll use those other 2 somewhere else later. So just put those right back in the pile. These are coming kind of out of where we're going to put our thank you piece, with this little red guy going over top of that. Then up top, we've got this leaf and then this green one. I'm overlapping this leaf here and having that come out the side. Then we've got this one. And the way these work the best, I think, is having two different sized glue dots. A bigger one that you put in the center. Oh, that was a small one. Okay, well, we're going to do a small one this time. And then you fold it and then put one of the smaller ones on the back and attach. And that gives you that a little cone shaped look to that embellishment. Now I took the journaling pen and just did a couple of little lines that helped to kind of finish off this frame. And I don't draw very straight and I don't feel like doing a ruler, so I am doing two lines. So it looks like I meant to overlap and whoopsie a little bit. Then if you want, you can use some foam tape or just leave them flat. I'm going to go ahead and pop this. Little pieces of foam. 3D that sucker. Ooh, right side up. So I've got my thank you, and then I'm just going to take two of my little gems. A big one and a little one, and put it right on that thank you sentiment. And that finishes our first card. On to our second one, which is very similar to the one we just did. So same thing if you want to do some embellishing, if you want to add some sanding or edge distressing to any of these, go ahead and do that. I'm going to just take my my paper and I'm going to rub my sanding block over top of it. And I'm doing it so that the leaves, rather than the leaves popping up, the leaves are popping down, and then it's mostly just doing the edges of those leaves. And you don't get as much of the detail. So totally up to you, fun little thing to try. And then I'm just going to attach that to the front of my card. Get my 3 columns, figure out which way these columns are going to go. I know the yellow one goes to the left. And then there's one that's got a little bit of yellow. That one will be on my middle one. So I'm going to put the one on the right down, and then I'll stick that middle one in. So we've got that fun little tree scene going on. All right, then from this pile, from the big pile, you actually need 3 of them. You need both orange ones, but you're just going to take one leaf off of each. And I'm taking the bottom leaf, one of the bottom ones, because I typically kind of left the top 3 together when I did these and just used those 3 bottom, or those 2 bottom ones separate. So all 3 of those, I grabbed the bottom leaf, and then we've got this one from this pile here. It's one of the stamped ones. Then a single green leaf and one of the golds, and from the words, the word you. And let's work on our cluster. So we've got a leaf, with another one tucked up next to it. And then here we're going to do that little cone-shaped guy. So again, this time a bigger glue dot, it helps to keep the whole thing together. And then one of the little ones to attach it because the whole thing's getting held down by lots of other stuff too. So this one's going next to that, then this one up top, next to this leaf, then the brown one. Make sure it stays on the card. And then this green one overlaps the brown. I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of the word you. And this just hides the middle where they all meet. Final thing is 2 gems, a big one up here and a little one down here. And isn't that lovely? All right, our next one's got some fun panels to it. Again, if you'd like to add some texture to it, go ahead. I'm going to keep this one naked. Decide if you want your leaves popping up or down. I'm going to have them popping up. I use a little more adhesive when I'm doing papers that are embossed because they have less surface area to attach. All right, first thing I want you to do is figure out which way these flowers go. So they all at one point were in a row. Figure out which way this puzzle goes together. 1, 2. Okay. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So all my flowers look like flowers. So the one on the bottom is going to go on the bottom. And I'm putting that about a 1/2 inch up and a 1/4 inch in from the left. Then take the top one and do a 1/4 of an inch and a 1/4 of an inch so that it's square up here, but not quite square over here. Then this last middle piece here, we're going to add to a frame and layer that one, offset both of those. Isn't that fun? That's one of the sketches out of the catalog. All right, so now let's grab our little pieces. So this one is sanded from that pile. This one here is the one we took just one leaf from. You'll want to thank you, this little green leaf, and one of the woven ones. Now here we can cut off that single leaf and put that back. We just need these 3. And that's where we're going to, well, actually, we'll start with the orange. So the orange one, we're actually going to cut off one of these leaves. Going to have these 2 here. And actually, you can cut that stem right off if it's in your way. Then this little leaf, I'm going to tuck down here to give us just a little more orange kind of down a little bit further. Isn't that a nice little trick you can do with these things? All right, then this guy, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Cut that right off. This one, I'm going to kind of cover up a whole bunch of these colors here, like right in the middle. Then we want this green one to fill in any of that space. See here how I've got a little bit of orange kind of popping through. I want to cover that orange right up with my green. Then this foil, or the woven piece, is going to go right next to the orange. And here's where I'm going to start using my brush, my blending brush. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that pumpkin color and brush just a little bit of that color right in the center of that circle. Just a little pop of color. And then again, you decide if you want foam or not. All pieces on here. And then again, finish it off with 2 gems. So get my thank you on there. A big guy and a little guy. And that card's done. So here are the pieces you're going to need to gather. 1, 2, 3 are from the plastic bag. This one I've already gone ahead and folded up, glued it together. I couldn't have done this without you. I added a little bit of the ink in the middle. We've got our maple leaf, and then from here we need 2 leaves. I'm just going to snip and put the 3 over there. I need these to be separate, so I'm just going to trim off the stem of both of them so that I just have 2 of those leaves. Now we are going to do a little bit of prep work now. We're going to tear down the long sides of this paper. Then tear down the long side, one side of this. Attach this. And then tear down the other side. Just to help with your spacing. All right, this one, if you want, you can go ahead and sand. I love the way the sanding looks, and you don't have to do the middle because you're covering the middle up. I'm just going to rough up the edges a little bit. This attaches to the front of the card. Then this column goes right down the middle. And now we can work on our cluster. So we've got this leaf here. Then we're going to add our 2 brown ones, the dark ones. One of them is coming off down to the corner here. The other one I'm tucking just behind that maple leaf. Then we've got the double leaf. I'm going to use this on the back here. This is that double leaf that's in the reddish color. That is overlapping the brown just a little bit. Then the green overlaps all of that. Got our little cone-shaped guy. It's going to come right in here. And now we've got our circle that I'm going to add foam tape to. And then just like the others, this one gets finished off with a little gem and a big gem. And that finishes that card. This next one, same thing. You decide if you want to add that texture. I love the sanded look. Decide if you want to do light or dark and go ahead and do that. So that's going to get attached to the front of your card. Then I did scissor distressing, took my scissors and rubbed it around the edges of this paper because I just like the way that looks and it gives it a little more pop. Then that goes on this frame and this gets centered on this card. Then our cluster goes at the top. So the pieces that we need, this inked one from this pile, this one is stamped from that pile, then a green leaf that has 2 leaves and one of the woven ones that I've already rolled up for us. All right, we need 3 leaves. And that goes right up in the corner. So that middle leaf is going right up in here. Then this one actually looks like I cut this little guy off. So I'm going to set him aside. We probably use him later. cut that stem right off so it's not in the way. This is just slightly overlapping that orange leaf. Then we've got this green one that's gonna come up in between those leaves there. The cone separates these two. Stay. These two leaves right in here, so it goes right in the middle. And then you are amazing in every single way. That one, I want to make sure I'm cutting off the right side. So we want to put adhesive all the way over to the amazing side and not the you are side. So I'm leaving a little bit of no adhesive there because that's going to hang off the edge of the card. Right in here. And I'm just going to use my scissors and trim off that edge. And then grab your two gems, and I put one on the leaf over here that I think, yeah, it's cute. I'm going to put one there and then a little one up top. And that takes care of that one. All right, go ahead and do your sanding if you're going to sand. There's our pieces. And that gets adhered to the front of your card. Then we've got our postage stamp that I used with that paper. Isn't that fun? And then this littler postage stamp that you're going to overlap, bring that almost to the edge of the card, about an inch up from the bottom, so that it really pops out. Then from this pile, we've got the stamped one. This pile, we've got one of the ones we inked. You need from your baggie, one of the red ones that's got two leaves and one of the red ones that's got one leaf. Then this guy, don't forget to curl him up. Two. All right. So now let's work on our cluster. We've got this guy going on the bottom, and I'm going to cut that stem off just in case. Keeps it out of my way. All right, and then this is coming down toward the corner. It's just barely touching the edge of the frame now. Then we'll take this guy, and that's going to slightly overlap. Now we need our single red leaf right in between those two. Then our double red leaf is going to come down in this corner down here. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff overlapping right there, which is where we're going to put our here for you. So it's overlapping all of that middle crazy. And then a big guy and a little guy. So using Glacier ink, I rubbed it over top of the embossed portion and adhered that to the front of the card. Then the scenery is going to go evenly spaced top and bottom, flush to the right side of the card. Now from your piles, you need this one. I stamped this one a little darker here on accident. Then you need this one from this pile. This is the one that's sanded. From your little pile of goodies, we need the green stem looking one, a single purple leaf, and a triple red leaf. And then you need the thank you, I couldn't have done it without you square that is kind of purpley. All right, from here we need just the top three leaves. one leaf on the blue, the other two kind of pointing up into the sky. You want to be able to see that sun a little bit right in the middle. Then we've got the orange one is going to go next. And you want that middle orange leaf to come up in between 1 and 2 leaf on the tan color. Then we've got our green stem that I'm going to tuck actually underneath this orange leaf, coming in between those 2 leaves. Purple leaf right down overlapping the brown, the light tan color. Then we've got a red leaf that's going to overlap or kind of overlap the orange leaf that's all the way over to the left-hand side. Then we've got our cone that's going to tuck, should have done this one earlier, down behind there. Hold. Stay. All right, and then this one I'm going to put foam tape on, and that will overlap this little piece right here. And then we're going to add our 2 gems, a big one down here and a little one up here. And that finishes that card. This piece was sanded and then added to a card front. Then this one I'm going to tear off the top and then kind of figure out where my bottom is going to end up and tear across the bottom. Add tape, and that goes toward the left-hand side, but you want to leave a little bit of space and make it straight. All right. Then we've got this leaf where we had already cut off 2 of the bottom ones from this pile here. We're going to start with this one, and that's going to fill in the bottom open space here. Then we have this leaf that we'd inked from this pile. We've got a green one. It's going to come right in between those 2, and a pink purple guy that's going to overlap all 3. Then we need a thank you with a little bit of orange ink. Ooh, and don't forget this guy. He's coming in between 2 of the brown leaves. Oh, move that up just a little bit. I'm making a mess. All right, right in there. There we go. And then this is going to go on foam tape. Sentiment covers up the middle section, big gem, little gem. Then that one's done. And here's our next one. We're going to do a little fold. All right. So this little embossed postage piece, I ran some toffee ink over top of it to make the textures pop. Then grab these pieces out. This little postage stamp, I just ran my journaling pen around the edges to create that. I did my spiral on the leaf. Then what I'm going to do up here is take I grabbed a paintbrush. It's narrower than a pen. So something narrow, and I'm just going to curl the paper inward. Further than I think I need to go. And then I'm putting adhesive on 3 of these sides for now. And that's going to go on the front of the card. Take that piece that we embossed and have the color added to, And that's going to go up in the corner with just a little bit of white showing. And then put your adhesive down and figure out how you're going to make that. I just do a little fold to make that all kind of fall into place. And if you want, you can even put adhesive behind there to help lock it in and make sure that's not going anywhere. So there's the start. Then we're going to add our pieces. So one of these leaves, we've got these two here. We need just one of them. And I'm going to add just a little bit of ink. Let me grab some scrap paper here. I'm just going to add a little bit of the orange ink, that pumpkin ink. Right on the end of that leaf, just to give it a little extra color. Isn't that fun? Set that one aside. We'll use that one later. All right, so now let's build our leaf cluster. This one is coming down into the yellow. You want to dip it down into the yellow. That helps to keep it so that it pops. Then we're going to add the purple double leaf. Actually, let's add this guy first. He's going to go just underneath that leaf. And then this guy is going to go underneath there. And then we've got our little cone shape that's going to come up between those two, the purpley leaves. You want it kind of sticking right out between those two purpley leaves. Then we're going to put foam tape on the back of the purple rectangle and attach here for you to that rectangle. So it's covering up part of that brown leaf, overlapping where we've brought everything kind of together there. And then the here for you is going to go right on there. Finish it off with a couple of gems, and I've got 3 gems on this one. We've got 2 little ones and a big one. So I did a big one there, and then I'm going to put a little one there and a little one way out here. And that finishes that card. Gather up your supplies, and then with this one, you can do that same thing with the paintbrush and curl it, or you can just fold it down. This one I'm just going to fold and then put my tape there and then along the edges. And before I tape this one down, I'm going to put that postage stamp again right in that corner with a little bit of white showing to give you that frame. And then I'm just going to tack this down with some adhesive. Now for our cluster, we want to cut this guy off. He's going to be separate. And I'm going to do this brown one pointing right up toward the corner here. Then take this little single guy. I'm going to cut that stem right off of there. That's going to tuck behind where those 2 petals meet. And this one is going to tuck behind there. Make sure it's angled so it's staying on the card. Then the purple sprig overlaps that, coming right in between those brown pieces, the brown leaves up here. And then we've got our little cone. You want to pull that close because the foam tape goes on the circle. and the circle's going to land about here. So you want to make sure that your leaf is going to fall behind where that circle's going to land. So I'm just making sure it's going to cover up where the glue is on that. And then a big and a little, I put them up here on this one, but this time I'm going to add them over here. And that's that. Then with this one, we're going to start a little bit different. We're going to add these two long red pieces to the sides first. And now some tearing. So both sides on this one. We did one similar to this earlier. Of adhesive. So with this one, instead of tearing forward, you're going to tear backward so that the white is exposed on the back. Like that. I'm going to move this over. Well, I'm going to tear in a little bit more here. There we go. And then it leaves it solid colored on the front. And if you run your finger along the back as you're tearing, you can feel where the edge is and figure out where you want it all to fall. Now, the trick is making sure that you don't have white spots showing. And if you do, then that's where your cluster is going to be. So right here, I have a little bit of white showing. I'm going to make sure that one of my leaves falls right in there. So from here, we need these two from the bottom. And this maple leaf, the orange one that we cut out, and one of these gold guys. And I'm going to start with my maple leaf and do a little bit of tucking behind there afterward. So that one there, and then I know one of my dark leaves needs to come right here again to cover up where that white spot no longer is showing. Yay! Then this guy is going to tuck behind that leaf there. And I'm going to cut the end right off of that. We've got this orange one. You want to make sure when you're putting that down that these leaves stay on the front of the card. And we need the word you. And I'm going to roll this one up. So that got rolled and placed. And I made sure that was one of the shorter ones and not one of the longer ones. Then I've got the word you. That's going to overlap that whole cluster. Little gem, big gem up here. Done. So that piece goes on the card front, making sure that your path is going this way and not trees upside down. Then this green is going about an inch up from the bottom. This and even spaced on the left and right. This one's going an inch down from the top. Again, even spaced left and right. Then we've got this one that's going to go closer to the top, leaving a little bit of space in between them. Now we're going to build. So here, take just these 3 leaves. And that is going to come across this top section here. Add that red ferny looking guy, overlapping that. Then put one of those cone pieces right next to that. We've got this leaf here. That's going to tuck up right next to the orange, coming down onto this piece here. And then we've got this one. I'm going to cut that middle section off, just that extra stem. And then this one is going to butt up into everything else. Then we've got You Are Amazing, that's on foam tape, that you want evenly spaced now in between these two green pieces, as though it were one of these column, a part of that whole column in the middle. Isn't that fun? I know, I love it. This is one of the designs, again, from page 22 of the catalog that shows some really awesome ideas. All right, so we got our 2 gems, and that's it for that one. Attach the yellow closer to the fold, and then the green piece goes along the edge on the right. That postage piece that has the field goes right in the middle. Then we can start adding our little embellishments. So we've got this leaf, one of the cone leaves is going to come up next to that. Then this brown one, almost laying sideways right in there. Then the green fern goes in between those 2 leaves there. Then down here, we've got that single inked orange leaf that we had left over, the single hand inked leaf we had left over. Now we can add with a foam tape a little note to brighten your day. So foam tape, I didn't put any on the end so that I can easily cut that off. Big gem here, little gem up here, and that finishes up that card. And our very last card is right here. And you won't necessarily use all of what's left over, but you certainly could if you want to. All right, so that one's just covering the front of the card. And then we've got this postage stamp that you decide, do you want it to kind of, so you can see the edge of the postage, or on this one, I had it hanging off the edge and cut it. Here, I'm going to have it so that it's showing. Then we've got, we need one of these, one of these. Actually, it's both of these. And those, yeah. And that. And one more of those leaves. So now it's all kind of just coming out from that postage stamp. Got one there. Here. And then we want to leave some space here so you can still see the edge of that postage stamp. So it's not in my way. This one is overlapping, so it kind of stands out. I'm going to roll this one up. And then that one is overlapping the maple leaf here. I'm going to put this on foam tape. So this is going to cover up that middle section where everything kind of overlaps. And then you've got whatever bling you've got left, you can go ahead and attach to this card. that is this project, my friends. I hope that you liked it. I absolutely love the combination of the stamps, dies, and embossing folder that you can get as a bundle at a discount. I highly recommend it. If you enjoy using leaves, this is a nice one that you can really use any time of year with a lot of different colors and um, make them fun embellishments for cards, scrapbooking, anything you want to do. Thanks for watching. I hope you had fun with it, and I'd love for you to comment.